Hey everyone. Today I wanted to do a dissection of a video by Eckhart Tolle, who's a spiritual guru kind of guy, and we'll get into it. We'll read up a little bit about Eckhart Tolle, though. There's Eckhart Tolle on the right there. A German-born spiritual teacher and self-help author who resides in Canada. Is best known as the author of Power of Now and A New Earth. After being recommended by Oprah Winfrey, his first book, The Power of Now, reached New York Times bestseller list. Early life he felt afraid and anxious growing up in post-war Germany. At the age of 13, I'm skipping ahead a little bit here. Age of 13, he moved to Spain to live with his father, who did not insist that he attend high school. So he's elected to study literature, astronomy, and languages at home. At 15, he was heavily influenced by a gift of 5 spiritual books. Career. When he was 19, Tolle moved to England and taught German and Spanish for 3 years at a London language college, and this is in reference now to his spiritual awakening. One night in 1977, that's the year I was born, at the age of 29, after long periods of depression, Tolle says he experienced an inner transformation. I couldn't live with myself any longer, and in this a question arose without an answer. Who is the I that cannot live without the self? That is the self. What is the self? I felt drawn into a void. I didn't know at the time that what really happened was the mind-made self, with its heaviness, its problems that lives between the unsatisfying past and the fearful future, collapsed. It dissolved. The next morning I woke up and everything was so peaceful. The peace was there because there was no self, just a sense of presence or beingness, just observing and watching. So no self. He's talking about coming across a question without an answer and it leading him onto a certain path. And he began to feel an underlying sense of peace in any situation. He stopped studying for his doctorate, and for a period of about 2 years, he spent much of his time sitting in a state of deep bliss on park benches in Russell Square, central London, watching the world go by. He stayed with friends in a Buddhist monastery, so his interaction with Buddhism. I'm going to come back to that. That's why I stopped at that. Or slept rough. His family thought him irresponsible, even insane. He changed his name. And then the students kept on asking him for his advice or his beliefs and stuff like that, and eventually encouraged him to write a book. And then Oprah Winfrey promoted that book heavily, and from there he's become very popular. So I stumbled on this video. I think I was searching for something. I can't remember what it was, but the title of the video was "Where Do Thoughts Come From?" And I thought, okay, well, let's get into this. Let's try and find out what someone says. And it's the first time I saw anything from Eckhart Tolle. So we'll get to that video now. Okay, where do our thoughts come? Eckhart. It's the official channel, 1.4 million subscribers, and here we go.
I love you. So in talking about thinking, I know this has an obvious answer, and I'm actually asking beyond this. But where do our thoughts come from? So oftentimes I'll have thoughts and I recognize them as even not my own, or possibly patterns that have existed for years and years. Jealousy thoughts or competitive thoughts or the thoughts of being threatened and fear. But truthfully, is this something, is waking us up in the middle of the night that you were just talking about? What is that? Is it just part of the condition of being alive?
Thank you.
Okay, so pause here. Now, on his, bio, it said that his sense of self had gone away. Yet the first thing you see on his video when it comes up, it's got his name, Eckhart Tolle TV. It's an actual TV show that he's got. And the first words, mind you, this is an edited video, carefully edited video. It's not just, a camera sitting there. It's an edited video, clips put together, yeah? And the first words that come out are a nice-sounding woman saying to him, "I love you." And title at the front with his name on there, okay? And he's supposed to have no sense of self.
The Buddha was asked a similar question. I'll tell you what he said, but then I will answer it because he didn't.
Thank you.
Somebody asked him a question like that, and he gave a parable. He said, you've got somebody shot you with an arrow. You've got an arrow stuck in your body. And before you remove it, you're trying to find out, where did that arrow come from? Before I remove it, I need to know who shot it and why and where it came from. Let's examine this in more detail. And that was his answer. What he was saying was, our main concern should be to remove the arrow instead of trying to find out where it all started. How did it all start? Where did it all originate? That was his teaching was very practical, totally practical. Not all of Buddhism is that practical anymore. Some of it still remains practical compared to other traditions. But in the very beginning of the Buddhist teaching was just totally practical. Remove the arrow. The arrow, of course, stands for suffering, any form of suffering that is self-generated through.
Okay, I'm gonna pause this. So the interaction that he's describing with Buddha, where he's asked a question and he gives a parable, that's not meant to have an answer. So the response is meant to be a parable. It's meant to present you with a response so that you can follow along on a train of self-inquiry. It's meant to make you ask more questions and elicit more thoughts and sort of focus inwards on your own thoughts more and more and more, rather than answer a question that doesn't have an answer. He knows it doesn't have an answer. Yeah, but he claims to know the answer to this question. And he's spent time in a Buddhist monastery. You see, that interaction between Buddha, that's called a Zen koan. It's meant to do exactly what I said. It's meant to inspire a dialogue of self-inquiry or inquiry with another person. But you meant to think about things that you haven't thought about before, and specifically not be influenced by what he's talking about, where you're influenced by things from the past that have happened and how they're going to impact things in the future. You're actually thinking about a hypothetical scenario that you've just been told, and he's pointing the answer or the line of inquiry straight down the separation between instinct and that separation between what you're going to do right now as an instinct and thinking in the past, thinking in the future, which is his power of now philosophy. It's other people's philosophy. He's just taken it on board, really. But if he spent time in a Buddhist monastery, he should know that that's a Zen koan, and he should know that it's not meant to have an answer. He's not meant to deride it. He's not meant to make people laugh over it, because it's serious, and it's not actually practical. Like if if you take it very superficially on its surface level of what the response from Buddha is there, it may be describing something practical, but what it's doing is not something practical. It's making you think about new thoughts that you haven't thought about before, and focus down on those things. It's not practical. So the way he's describing this, he should know better, and he's mischaracterizing that interaction with Buddha. So and then he's inserting his own answer in there. Yeah, that's what he's gonna do. I'll let it play on. So we've got the sense of self thing, which he says he doesn't have a sense of self, but this video is very much focused in that way, and he doesn't seem to understand what a Zen koan is. He doesn't seem to understand that it's meant to be a parable.
Mind. And okay, so that was his answer. No,
not an answer.
Of course, I agree with that, and I'm sure we all do.
There's nothing to agree with, and it wasn't an answer. He said it wasn't an answer. He said it was a parable. And it gets me, because someone who claims to have gone through what he's gone through in terms of thinking about questions that don't have answers, and then for him to expect there to be an answer to a question that doesn't have an answer, and ride the top of that, and then after that you go through a line of inquiry like that, like the idea that some questions aren't meant to have answers, then you start thinking really carefully about the meaning of the words that you use and how you're presenting your language. And he's studied language as well, right? So he shouldn't be mischaracterizing this as an answer. But he does multiple times after telling us that it was a parable. So it's that to me is very confusing. Someone like him should know and be very, very mindful of the language that he uses so he doesn't confuse people. I will continue.
Thought, going a little bit beyond it, thought is, there's such a thing as the collective mind, and so many thoughts are not your thoughts, really. They arise in the collective mind. They are energy fields or energetic entities that one could almost think of them as little bubbles floating around. It may not be literally true. I haven't actually seen any bubbles, but little bubbles, thought forms floating around, and if the thought form discovers any resonance with anything inside you, for example, any form of negativity, and then there's a thought form in the collective mind.
So he's talking about some external entity separate from yourself, which is, I'm laughing because from a normal, from most people's point of view, it sounds ridiculous. But even from the point of view of someone like myself, like I don't claim to be a guru, but I've had an experience where it dissolves your sense of self, but then your sense of self comes back. And you have to train yourself not to have a sense of self, and it's difficult because you're back in reality again, right? You're back here, not the ultimate reality, but you're back in this reality, and yeah, it just doesn't sit right. It really doesn't sit right, because from the perspective of a collective conscience, he should, if the conscious is collective, then he shouldn't be describing it as these other things that are resonating with your energy, or maybe he should, but how does he know? It's just really odd that he's going into this much detail about something that isn't meant to have an answer, but he's somehow pulling out an answer from somewhere. Okay, and really, being very charismatic, I guess, with the crowd, because he's getting a good response, or maybe it's programmed.
An even heavier thought form of negativity, for just a slight irritation about what somebody said today. And then there's another thought form that resonates with that negativity, and then that bubble comes plop. And before you know it, the irritation has become something bigger. So you connect with the universal mind, and it moves through you. So when we deal with our so-called our own minds, is far more than our own minds. And whatever awareness arises in you is not just your benefit. It has an impact on the totality of the collective mind. When awareness arises in you, it means awareness is arising in the collective mind of humanity. So it's not just a personal thing. In the same way that any thinking that takes possession of your mind is not really personal. There is no personal thought as such. It pretends to be personal. It's the human collective mind. In the same way, of course, any emotion generated by that is not, it looks like my emotion, but it's...
So he's not attributing one's own thoughts to their own self. He's attributing one's thoughts to something else, which is I don't know. To me, it's just a bit of a strange concept, Fair enough, you got the idea of the collective consciousness. I don't think he's explaining it too well. Whatever he's explaining, I don't think he's explaining it too well.
Either it's anger, or it's sadness, or it's jealousy, or it's whatever it is. And that's basically, it's the same in everybody when it arises. It attaches itself to slightly different stories in the mind of why I'm angry, but the anger is anger, human anger. So, again, it's not yours. You pick it up, and then it gets hold of you, and then many humans live virtually with a mind that has taken possession of them, pretends to be them, and they're stuck with it without even knowing it. If they knew it, they would be the beginning of freedom. They don't know it, and if you tell them they get angry, but they don't.
So I think he's talking. I'm not educated on this, but I think he's talking about the ego getting in the way of recognizing, like, the bigger picture. Like you thinking that something's got to do, related to you, and then you get, angry or sad or upset or whatever, and you respond through your own personal, through your ego, rather than considering the broader picture of things. So I'm a bit curious about how he responded when he heard that, parable Zen koan about Buddha, and then decided, it wasn't good enough. I'm going to provide my own answer. How did he respond to that? But this is how he's responding.
The mind does, because it feels threatened. So there's still humans who won't hear this. They can't hear this because immediately they would feel threatened by it, because they're totally possessed by the mind. You can see how, for example, certain collective thought forms can take possession of an entire country. Such as happened, for example, during communism, Soviet communism in Russia, Maoism in China. Millions of people all thinking the same thing.
Yeah, that's indoctrination. That's propaganda indoctrination is what he's talking about. That's not necessarily anything sort of spiritual, and it's years of repression and years of tyranny and bad government. Communism, specifically is designed to make everyone sort of on the same level. So it's a poor example, really.
But even in our society, it's not necessarily one monolithic thought form as such as that, but there are different thought forms through the media become perpetuated, and without knowing it, often they are our most basic assumptions, how we interpret the universe and the world around us. Our basic assumption are thought forms that come out of the collective, have taken possession of us, and they're all forms that consciousness takes in the mind. Mm-hmm. And that's all fine.
So now he's calling things from the media, influence from the media, as collective consciousness. I'm pretty sure he just used the word collective. Let's go back.
Collective have taken possession of us, and they're all forms that consciousness takes in the mind. Mm-hmm. And that's all fine in itself. It's fine if there is an awareness. But if thought is all there is, it becomes destructive and insane without awareness. Of course, your next question, if you want to carry that, is why?
That's what she was saying. Well, no.
How did it all start? Where does it come from? And that's the arrow.
Did he... I don't think he really explained anything there. He just explained the concept of combined consciousness or collective consciousness, and used communism as an example of that, and then said that the media can be a collective or influence collective mind, but it's a bit confusing.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. In fact, my friend.
Skip back here again.
How did it all start? Where does it come from? And that's the arrow again.
Right.
So now he's referring back to the question with Buddha as to where it comes from, where thoughts come from, even though he's just spent 7 minutes or so trying to answer the question. So it's just very confusing.
In fact, my friend Jen and I use the phrase, when you ask why, that is the lie.
Yeah.
Just the need
to
let it go. But the thing that occurred when you shared your answer, thank you.
Well, hold on. Her response was, what?
That is the lie.
Yeah. That's the arrow again.
Right. Yeah. In fact, my friend Jen and I use the phrase, when you ask why, that is the lie.
Yeah.
When you ask why, that is the lie? What? How? So that's her take home from that? That's what she's taken from that? When you ask why, that's the lie? I mean, that's such a broad thing. When you ask why, it's inquiry. What's wrong with inquiry? She's equating inquiry with a lie? Asking a question with a lie? Is that to imply that you shouldn't be asking questions? Because that's kind of weird. That's what they do in like dogmatic cults and stuff, where they have this pillar of underlying belief of what the truth is, and if anyone asks questions, it's like, you're not allowed to ask a question. Wow. Okay.
Just the need to let it go. But the thing that occurred when you shared your answer, thank you, is that...
What did he answer? He just said that it goes back to the Buddha's question with the arrow. He didn't answer anything, did he? He just said collective consciousness, and it resonates with your negativity or your feelings, and then pop and something like that, and gave some vague examples that weren't really examples of anything. They were just influence examples of government and media.
Thinking isn't something I need to war against, but rather it's a tool. And it's showing me where I'm allowing myself to identify with something that I'm not.
Yes.
And thus identify with being separate
Yes.
from this one. So
Yes.
it's a wonderful tool.
Yes.
Hold on.
I'm allowing myself to identify with something that I'm not.
Yes.
And thus identify with being separate
Yes.
from this one. So.
Yes.
Identify with being separate. So that's division. So she's ending this with, I should be divided. I should be separated from things. I should. Wow. To me, that's kind of the complete opposite of what most of these sort of Buddhist Zen spiritual kind of teachers, especially when he's talking about collective consciousness, we should, that should inspire a connection between things, a lack of separation. And she's talking about separation and that being where she's going to settle. And he's like, right. Which is really weird, because she's saying the opposite of what he's suggesting, and he's just saying, right. Very strange.
It's a wonderful tool.
Yes.
That is ultimately powerless in the face of consciousness. Is that correct?
Yes. If you are identified with thinking, you say powerless. Yes. Because you are not there. You are absent, virtually absent, or completely asleep when you're identified with thinking. So you are being run by patterns on the karmic collective patterns, mental patterns.
What? Hold on. That I'm going to go back to that.
You say powerless? Yes, because you are not there. You are absent, virtually absent, or completely asleep when you're identified with thinking.
When you identify with thinking, you are virtually absent or asleep. What? That really sounds like some brainwashing indoctrination shit. It really does. It's like it's promoting people not to think. It really does. That's weird. I can understand if you think too much. Like your thoughts can get carried away and stuff. But just to say, if you just blank statement about just thinking, to say that you're, wow.
So you're being run by patterns on the karmic collective patterns, mental patterns. And so your true power comes as you wake up out of that.
Okay, that makes sense. Kind of, that you're influenced by, your past experiences and your reactions to those past experiences, as opposed to just looking at the true, or trying to look at the true situation that's going on now, rather than being influenced by your biases and things like that. But then the language is used prior to that, just it ain't right. And he's affirmed her as saying yes. But you don't have to be asleep when you're thinking. You can be like 50-50, like half of your thoughts can be influenced by some sort of bias, and half of them can be focused on what you're doing right now. So it's not black and white like what he's saying, is
it? Thanks, Eckhart.
Thank you.
And yeah, okay, well there you go. Look, I don't think after I watched this video, I didn't think I needed to look at any of his other stuff, because he doesn't seem to explain anything here. He seems to go in a redundant circle of, hey, this sounds like he's really speaking from ego, and hey, this is someone saying that they love me. This is my TV show with my name on it, and logos coming up, and I'm guessing this is someone from the crowd that's come up. And then you've got his Eckhart Tolle TV logo that comes up as well. So there's a lot of soft promotion here. But that doesn't gel. That really doesn't sit right. I'm going to show you a couple of other things. I'm going to show you a couple. Just the weirdness of all that Yeah, to me, the fact that he didn't make sense and that he contradicted a bunch of stuff that is in his bio, as in he should have known certain things, but he mischaracterizes, doesn't sit right with me. But that's his bio, and the fact that Oprah promoted him, she's promoted some like really fucked up people. Yeah, Oprah's spiritual healer sentenced to 19 years for sex crimes. This guy, John of God, in South America somewhere, had some massive trafficking organization where he would sell babies, like get women pregnant, sell babies, kill them afterwards when they were done. Yeah, and his daughters have come out and spoken out against him, saying he did it to me. Yeah, and Oprah has repeatedly promoted this guy before the media found out that he was like this. And she's also very well connected to was it Weinstein? You know, the Hollywood producer from the Weinstein Company, who was convicted of rape and sexual abuse and manipulation to get female actresses, you know, a job in the Hollywood industry. He would, you know, do the casting couch thing and, you know, get them to perform acts on him. So she, you know, there are actresses that have come out and said that Oprah Winfrey were pimping them out to Weinstein, which, you know, the fact checkers might come out and say, no, it's false. But you have a look at these photos that are here, you know. Have a look at, you know, where are we there? Have a look at this. Come on. Don't play games with me. There we go. Load. Have a look at this. That's Oprah Winfrey. That's Weinstein. That's a nervous-looking blonde. She's dyed her hair, but nervous-looking young woman who Oprah's giving comfort to while Weinstein is pinching her on the shoulder. That looks really fucking sus to me. And you know, everyone in the industry knew that he was doing this, and they kept their mouths shut. This is before he got convicted, so she must have known. There's no way that she wouldn't have known. You know, there are inside jokes like on Family Guy and stuff. And Seth MacFarlane, the creator of Family Guy, you know, when he has been on stage giving, you know, doing the awards show presentations, he'll joke about Weinstein and, you know, now, you know, she's a famous actress. Now she doesn't have to, you know, go to Weinstein's office anymore. That kind of stuff. But she's, you know, quite close to Weinstein. So the people that she promotes isn't some sort of, you know, happy innocent thing. It's, you know, okay, I'm not saying guilty by association with Eckhart Tolle. I'm saying suspicion by association. Because first of all, if he says that there's, you know, he's lost his sense of self or he's dissolved his sense of self, yet in this video you can clearly see that there's this egotistical, you know, sort of things pointing in his direction in terms of his TV label being there, in terms of the I love you, in terms of trying to ride over the top of that exchange with Buddha, and then making it sound like he couldn't answer the question, so I will. When it's not meant to be an answer to the question. So it just there are so many like suspicious things here that I'm gonna have to say, like, I can't tell you whether Eckhart Tolle is legitimately fraudulent or not. I think he might have gotten close to or read up on a lot of the things that he professes to know, and I think that the fame may have, you know, led him astray. I think that may be it, but it's certainly not, you know, disconnected or has his sense of self put away. and he certainly doesn't know about Buddhism. He certainly doesn't know about the words that he's using. He's certainly not using them carefully. He certainly doesn't seem to know what he's saying compared to how someone is acknowledging what he's saying. And then he's just not very careful with his words. And the thing is, every single person that I've come across who is in tune with the kind of stuff that he says is in tune with, they are very, very, very careful with their words. They're very careful. Because they don't want to be misunderstood, and they don't want to mislead other people. They don't want to give other people the wrong impression. They want understanding. Anyway, that's my thing. That's just really weird. All those inconsistencies and all those contradictions. But that's Eckhart Tolle. You can find out more about him by looking up him yourself. So yeah. Okay, I just want to say, I need to add to that. She did say, so thinking can be used as a tool to determine what we're separated with. And I think I skipped out that tool bit when I was critiquing what she was saying at the end there. So I might have gotten that wrong. And I think what he's trying to say is that if you think too much, you get caught up with your stuff. Like you get caught up with external influences, I guess. And if you stop thinking, then you just run on your intuition or your instinct, and that's your and that's like your connection to combined consciousness or something. But he's not actually saying that. He didn't say that. He seems to be making a very black and white kind of distinction between thinking and not thinking, rather than practicing not thinking, I guess. But it's not. There's a message under there. There's something under there, but he's not saying it, and he's going through all these things that cause a lot of confusion. Yeah. I think that's what he's trying to say. I just want to clear that up before I rag on him too much, because there might have been one or two points there that I might have gotten wrong. But you should be able to say what if that's what his intention is, to say that we should let go of our sort of what is it, like our excessive thoughts, our there's a term for it when you think too much. Anyway, but if you think too much, then you're not going to be focusing on what you're doing now. And if you can just focus on what you're doing now, then you can act intuitively, and you can just express yourself, and you can be in the moment, and you can enjoy yourself. But that's not to say that your thoughts mean that you're asleep, and that you're like I mean, it's two different things. But the way he characterizes thinking, it's as if it's a bad thing. He's really not explained it well. Whatever he's trying to say, he hasn't explained it well. For me, after 8 minutes, if I have to try to read between the lines of what a spiritual guru is saying, then he's not saying anything properly. If I have to sort of maze my way through it, that's not efficient speaking. That's not efficient expression. So for him, see, for you to express yourself without thinking about it, you have to be passionate about it. You have to let it sort of flow, and then you're sort of living in the moment. You're just going. You're not having excessive thoughts about whatever you're talking about and whatever you're thinking. Yeah. But it doesn't seem like he's actually doing that. Because if he was, then he would be talking about what he is actually... He would be talking and doing the thing that he's talking about at the same time. But he's not, because those two things seem quite connected. He's not saying what I'm just saying now. You would have expected him to already know this instead of at the beginning. It's like it should just ready to go. Yeah, if he's doing what he's saying that we should be doing, it's very strange.